And, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And what we would like to ask you to do is when you have an opportunity at some point tonight, just put your name and your club into the chat so that we know who we had here with us this evening. We are here to talk about the Early Childhood Education Grants opportunity, which is very, very exciting. We'll be talking about the need. We'll be talking about the opportunity in the application process. We'll talk about project ideas and supporting the Rotary Foundation. And we should have some time at the end also to go into gallery mode and have some discussion with folks. Please do, as Teresa mentioned, put questions in the chat. We will be stopping along the way to answer your questions. The presentation, these slides will be available on the district website on the grants page starting tomorrow. And the webinar is being recorded and that'll be made available also. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to our district governor, Chuck.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks everybody for joining tonight. As district governor, you have a couple of years of lead up time before you take the position, and plenty of time to think about, hey, what do I want to do? When I have the opportunity to work with all the clubs in the district, what can we focus on that will help the clubs and help an area of need? And one thing my wife and I kind of focused on early on was education, literacy, and working with children, especially small children. We have 5 kids ourselves, and they're all out of college now. But we recall very well the times that they were very young, and how much time my wife especially spent with them, reading books to them and getting them ready for their learning experience once they got to school. And we thought that it'd be a great idea to focus on early childhood education as an area that we could help clubs do projects in once the opportunity came. And because of our district grant program, we've identified some funds that we can use for grants here in our district to help with early childhood education. And we'll go through a little bit about what the importance of that is first, and then talk about some ways that you can use the funds later on. But first off, what are we talking about? With early childhood education, we're talking from birth to age 6. Now, children don't learn how to speak or read or write when they're 6 months old or 12 months old, but they are developing their brains. And there's so much learning that takes place between the ages of 0 and 3 even, as the brain develops so fast at that time. And we're looking at working with children from birth to basically when they enter kindergarten, which is usually 5 or 6 years old. In some parts of our district, or even in all of our parts, but sometimes that's a little delayed because of special needs of a child. And so it's not a strict 5 or 6 years in limit, but it's basically when they get ready for kindergarten. It could be a child who's 7 that's not going to be disqualified just because they're placed a little bit later than their peers. I think, Rachel, yeah, thanks. As I mentioned, the child's brain develops so much. 90% of a child's brain development happens before they reach age 5. The rest of it is over the rest of their lifetime. So the more we can stimulate the brain and get that pre-learning going, the better off the children will be. And if we can bring programs to help with early childhood development, it's going to make a payoff in so many ways, and we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, in recent months, kind of emphasized the fact that looking at early childhood education is important for more than one reason. All children need help when they're young, but recent months we've seen questions about inequity, social justice, inequality. And nowhere is that more apparent than in education. Children in low-income families are exposed to, they say, 30 million fewer words than their peers by the age of 3 or 4 years old. They're just not in an environment that they're being read to, that they're being talked with. because of the other pressures of their environment. If you have low-income families, usually both parents, if there are two, are working out of the home quite a bit, don't have as much time to spend with the children. There's fewer resources available from their school districts or even their churches or other programs that are out there. So in wealthier communities, the children have more options. Here's a graphic example of this 30 million word gap. People that are at the welfare stage or near poverty level, the children are exposed to, just over 10 million words by the time they're 3. And working class, middle class, that's in the mid 20, 25 million area. And then if you had a couple of parents who are in the professional level of income, you can see that they're exposed to, as they say, 30 million more words by the time they reach age 3 than those at a lower income. And why is this important? Well, we have opportunities in our district, in so many parts of our district where there is big inequality in income. And we have children that are suffering because of that, especially now in COVID times where the challenges are multiplied by so much more, that we can come up with programs that help that. The Census Bureau tells us that in the Chicago area, income levels are closely related to race and ethnicity, so that folks that are Hispanic or Black are earning much less than Asians and whites in the Chicago area. And you can see the numbers there on the screen. And as we just saw, those income levels are also tied to the number of words that children are exposed to and which affect the development of their brains. So, if we can help folks that are in the poorer communities, we're helping folks that are Hispanic and Black and other minorities, and we can really make a difference in the long run. And we'll talk about those long-term benefits of early childhood education now. Studies, and there's a number of them, that tell us that the more you put into early childhood development, we have a lot of long-term benefits. Obviously, the learning skills are better, the cognitive skills. They test higher IQ if they're exposed to early learning than they would otherwise. Their social and emotional skills are more advanced. They do better with their peers. Lifetime earnings are improved. And then the negatives are reduced. There's less inequality in outcome for children based on income or race or any other factor if the exposure to words and to learning is equal, then it erases those inequalities. Other benefits are reduced need for special education and remedial education if we help out children in this age bracket. We have better retention in the grades. We don't have people being held back as much if we get them an early start on things. And we know that the high school graduation rates, the matriculation at college, and the job success are all improved with investments in early childhood education. So these are reasons why we thought that, hey, we could put some funds into programs here, help clubs, first of all, learn about these opportunities, and then create a grant program that is accessible to them. And we'll get into the details of the grant program next, but I pause for a moment to see if we have any questions regarding what we covered so far. I know we threw a lot at you pretty quickly there.
There's currently not anything. If you want to, we can wait, about 10 seconds or so, see if anything shows up.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Oops. I didn't mean to do that.
I think we're ready to go ahead.
Okay. Yep. No questions.
I was just playing with my screen. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk now about the opportunity that we have in the district to address the needs that Chuck, the urgent and important needs that Chuck has just talked about through our district grants program. So I'm first going to talk about what that opportunity is and then what the application process is. So through our district grants program, we will have grants available up to $500. And there is no matching required, although you can also, put in additional funds if you choose. We will be limiting the grants to one per club. However, clubs can work together. Multiple clubs can work together on a project, and each club that's working together can apply for the $500 grant. So there's an opportunity to, really pool some significant resources together if you choose to do that. And it's open to Rotary and our Rotaract clubs. So we have, I believe, 3 Rotaract clubs in the district, and I would just like to ask that any members of the Rotary clubs who have Rotaract clubs that are with us this evening or who are listening to this later, that you reach out to your Rotaract clubs and make sure that they know about this opportunity. We will be communicating it through multiple channels, but they're not necessarily in our communication database. So please do take that additional step to reach out to the Rotaract clubs, and perhaps you want to have your Rotaract club join you on the project, and they can also apply for $500 funds. So think about that as a really wonderful opportunity. And the application process will open up on September 1st. Now, this is no accident. September is in Rotary Basic Education and Literacy Month. So what a wonderful way to really make Basic Education and Literacy Month especially meaningful this year. So the application will be online. It'll be on the district website. It'll look very similar to the membership development grant application. It'll be a very easy process on the district website. And the deadline to apply is September 30th. However, it could actually be sooner than that because we have $10,000 available for this. So we will be able to support 20 of these applications at $500. So, we really suggest that you, make this a high priority in your organization. Take the time to talk through it with your club and your members, and put something meaningful together. But make sure that you do get your applications in. And there's a final report that will be due on January 31st of next year. So everything needs to be wrapped up. Your project needs to be wrapped up before then. So, okay, so a little bit about the activities that the grants would cover. The funds should be used for club projects that address improved education for children, just as Chuck was saying, from birth to age 6. That is the group that we want to help. So it's birth to age 6. And Rotarians should be involved in the project. This isn't just check writing. We're not just writing checks and making donations. The Rotarians really need to be engaged in the project in some way or another. So, make sure that you really think about that. And whenever we engage Rotarians, we know that that's a wonderful opportunity to increase the impact of what we're doing and, really make Rotary meaningful for more and more of our members and help people in the community learn about what Rotary does. And we're very flexible about what the grants can actually be used for. They could be reading materials, it could be tech, support of the teachers who are working in this field, advocacy programs, a whole host of different things. We're really quite flexible about that. And the things that you're going to want to do, and these are obvious, but we want to make sure that you're aware. You're going to have to document your expenses. We will need proof of payment of all expenses that were incurred. And of course, you want to take pictures and you want to tell the story of this project, both to your members, make sure all the members, know what's going on, but also, into the community. Make sure that the word gets out. There's so many channels. You have your social media, many other channels to do that. And then please share it with us at the district, or let us know where we can find your story so that we can share it among ourselves as well, and really celebrate what you're doing. And as we said before, get your club members, engaged in the project. What a wonderful opportunity for everyone in the club to be engaged in some way. And credit the Rotary Foundation. These funds are coming from the Rotary Foundation. They're part of a district grant. So be sure to remember to credit the Rotary Foundation. And I just also want to point out the eligibility requirements for the grant application. It's identical to the eligibility requirements for the regular district grant program. Clubs have to be current on their Rotary International and district dues. They have to have their goals entered into My Rotary for the annual fund and Polio Plus. They need to have their club foundation share entered into My Rotary and not be late on any grant reports. So any questions about the opportunity itself and the application process?
Rachel, yes, there was a question.
Okay.
Let me pull that. Okay, so the grant applications open on September 1st and the deadline is September 30th. Are you going to be reviewing the applications on a rolling basis, or will they all be reviewed at once after the deadline, the closing deadline of September 30th?
That is a really great question. We will be reviewing them on a rolling basis or on a live basis, basically, as they come in. So we're going to be, as they come in, as we review them, everything's there, all the necessary information. The club has, has met all the prerequisites. We will approve it, as we go. So while the final deadline is September 30th, actually the funds could run out before September 30th. So that's why we encourage that you make this a high priority, but take the time to talk about it in your club, and explore what would be an impactful project. Don't just rush to put something in that isn't the best project that you could have. Explore it with your Rotaract clubs, if you have, or if you have other clubs that you collaborate with. It could be very powerful. So do take that time up front to develop the project well, and but yet do make it a high priority. And if you want to check in with me and just say, hey, we're concerned, or is our funds still available? Be very happy to keep people, to let people know the status.
Okay. We
So
have a couple.
Anything you'd like to add to that? Anything you would say on top of that?
Just briefly, we've already created the application form. It's going to be a link on the district homepage starting September 1st, so just in a couple of days. And you'll be able to take a look at it. The preamble or the beginning part will tell you what you need to know, but we've already covered that. You basically need to know, what are you going to do for your project, and how are your Rotarians going to be involved, and how are you going to tell your story a little bit. And, in a couple of sentences, or even a couple of short paragraphs, you'll be able to tell us a description of your project and what you're going to use the funds for.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
meant to be very easy. And I do want to add that the applicant needs to be a club officer or a committee chair, or have some other, designated role, that is part of the application.
That was actually one. We do have a couple more questions. That was one of the questions. Does the foundation chair of our club have to apply for the grant, or can another member apply for it?
It has to be a club officer. Foundation chair is considered a club officer. Or, it has to be club officer, a committee chair, or someone who has a responsibility in, you know, in the youth area. Um, Obviously, no one, you know, from a club should apply for this without, you know, if the president of the club, you know, really, you know, being on board with it. So, you know, make sure that, you know, it's a supported activity. But we would assume that the officers and board members are in communication with each other about it.
Okay, a couple more questions. Is this intended to help only low-income children?
No, no, I think that that's a great audience to try to help, but every child is eligible for our help and deserves our support.
Okay. And the last one that I have so far is, are there books already picked out that we can use for our project?
In a moment, we're going to address that. We do have some ideas that we think are great ones, but you can work through your club and your connections in your club and find something that works really well in your community. So if we don't have any more questions, maybe we can move forward on that and go to the next slide.
Yeah, that's a great leading question. Are there any others, Teresa, or are we ready to go?
That's it for now. We can move on. Thank you.
Back to you, Chuck.
All right. Here's an idea. Bernie's Book Bank. Bernie's Book Bank is a Chicago area organization, a not-for-profit. And what they do is they raise funds, they buy books in bulk, and then they make those available to children in, they primarily address lower income areas, but they work all throughout the Chicago area. As far down as Kankakee, is all the way to the Indiana line. Their footprint is bigger than our district, so they could service anybody. And they have programs where you can buy however many books you would like for children at a very low cost. For one child, you could buy 12 books for the year for $12. So if you want to do the math, you can get 12 books for 40 children, a whole preschool class or perhaps two for a full year. They get one brand new book each month for the year. $480 fits within our $500 budget, and there's an idea on what you could do. And besides just buying the books, as you can see in the picture, you can help work with the schools, help in delivery, help in distribution. Right now we have kids shut at home. How are they going to get the books? And you can see here we have a system with volunteers set up to help distribute. Just like we've helped with distributing food throughout our district, we can help with this sort of thing as well. So here's a quick and easy and highly recommended option for everybody.
Chuck, if I can interject, we had one of the participants, Julie Carlson, had typed in that DuPage Children's Museum is partnering with Bernie's Book Bank on a storybook festival on September 24th at the museum.
That's fantastic. And you know, the reason we picked the September dates to kick this off is because on the Rotary calendar, September is literacy month, basic literacy. So we thought it fit perfectly in the calendar. It fits, obviously, they picked that because it's usually the beginning of the school year for most students. And it's a great time for the DuPage Children's Museum and Bernie's Books to work together for a project like that too. Let's take a look at the next idea. Here's something out of the Rotary world. A couple of years ago, my wife and I were at the Atlanta International Convention, and we went to the House of Friendship. And as we went up and down the many rows of booths that were telling about Rotary projects, we came across the La Crosse, Wisconsin Rotary group that created almost 20 years ago something called the Brain Game Book. Now, when we give books to children, we're helping the children directly, we're helping the parents as well. But this book is it's not a basic reader, it's a book for the parents themselves. It tells parents what happens in the baby's brain for the first few years of their life. So it's a guidebook to new parents on how to educate their children, what to look for in their child's development. It's chock full of great ideas. It's very colorful. It's got poems and songs and stories. It's got charts and background information. And it's something that some Rotary clubs put into the hands of every parent of newborns in their area. So You could work with a hospital foundation. You could work with a doctor's group and put together a program where you put a Rotary created guide in the hands of those parents. These books retail. If you wanted to buy one on Amazon, you could get it for $15. Their wholesale price to Rotary is $10 each. And if we buy in bulk, we can get them for even less than that. And it's something that can be used over and over again. It can be passed from one person to another. So it's a real good guide. And this would be something that you would want to partner with somebody else too. Clubs could work together. It would be something you want to look at, say, maybe this would be a long-term project for our club and something that we would do year after year.
Okay.
And if you want to get an idea, you don't have to go far. Talk to your local library and see if they have a learning program. The Children's Museum is a great example. Other programs in your community that work with children will know what's needed and how you can help. Almost every school district has an early learning program. Chicago Public Schools has Chicago Early Learning. Aurora has an early learning academy. And so do so many more. All the libraries have these programs to expose children to reading. And you don't even really have to spend a lot of money to help some of these programs. You could have your Rotarians volunteer to be the Rotary Reader of the Week, and either on a Zoom or when they get back together in person, take a turn reading books to children out loud, and help them experience what every child should be able to experience. Another idea that we're happy to share with you is a group called First Book. It's a not-for-profit. It works nationally, even in some other countries, and they support the educators. So if you're an early childhood educator, let's say a preschool teacher or kindergartner teacher, you can sign up with First Book, and they get fantastic deals on books. They can be in different languages. They cover a wide variety of topics. They're great books. They get them at a great price, and you can work with an educator that you know, or that's in your district or in your area of your club, and say, how can we support you through First Book? Are you a member of First Book? Is there a way that we can help you with what you're already doing? You can go to the websites of these groups and you can learn more. You can go ahead. I visited the Southland Rotary Club last week, and I learned that they've already been starting this. Last year they started, maybe even before that, Books for Babies, where they're exactly doing what we're talking about. They put in the hands of newborn children and their parents brand new books so that they could learn how to read or get exposed to reading at a very early age, and filling really the need that we're talking about today. And of course, Dr. Seuss says, the more you read, the more things you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you'll go. And that really kind of summarizes what we're talking about here, that, we can really help people for the long term in life by exposing them to, better child development early on. And now we'll pause for some more questions.
We did have a few questions that related very closely to what you covered. And the first question was regarding some of the examples that you had shown us, if they were targeted to that age range. And it certainly looks like there was a variety there of different ages that could be addressed with the different books. There was another comment of, here is an idea, how about Rotarians write a children's book? And again, it looks like we've had several Rotarians or clubs jump on that and put something together. So that's, they were right on it. They were like right ahead of you talking about it.
All great minds who are exposed to early learning think alike.
Exactly. And let me go back and check here again. Okay, Joy is asking, it sounds like the grants should all be related to reading rather than other learning skills.
Not necessarily.
Asking about other skills too?
Yeah, I mean, anything that helps with childhood really we're talking about developing their brains, by stimulating them, by exposing them to things that it could be multi sensory education, exposure to that. It doesn't necessarily have to be reading. It could be singing. It could be just more than just pure playtime, but some playtime with a purpose.
I think it's going back to that word gap, and there's many ways to address that. And that's what we're trying to do. We're very flexible on, what the activity could be. And it'd be great to see a number of different types of projects come forward.
There is another question. Will these ideas be placed in a resource on 6450? I believe he's referencing the district website.
Yes, this program will be recorded, edited a little bit, and then put up on our district website. And very quickly, these slides will be put up. Rachel's probably already got plans to do that very quickly.
Okay. And one other idea, other clubs have also taped books for little ones. They give the tape along with a copy of the book.
Cool. We tried to come up with a few solid examples, but really with 61 clubs and 1,700 plus Rotarians and Rotary actors combined, I'm sure you guys will come up with better ideas than even what we presented.
Okay, I think that's all of the questions for now.
Okay, we have one more segment to do, and then we'll just open it up for a bigger discussion. So the last thing we want to do is really bring this around to how important it is to recognize that it's the Rotary Foundation that's supporting our ability to provide these grants. And the Rotary Foundation, it's our foundation. It's very unique. There's no other organization that you can join, donate funds to, and then get funds back to do projects of your choosing. And that's exactly what's going on here. So it's just a reminder, that we all have a role as Rotarians and as leaders to support the Rotary Foundation in whatever means that we can, and to advocate for that. And it's actually the annual fund share system that provides these funds. So every year when we donate as individuals or as clubs to the Rotary Foundation's annual fund share system, those funds are invested for 3 years. And after 3 years, the principal comes back. The principal amount comes back, and half of it comes to the district as district designated funds, or DDF, as we like to say, and the other half goes over to the World Fund. And so it's those district designated funds that we're accessing to provide funds for this particular program. So the donations that you made, other members of our district made 3 years ago to the Rotary Foundation, have made it possible for us to the annual fund share, actually have made it possible for us to do these grants. So here, that was a photo of showing the impact. And for people who like diagrams, this really just shows what comes back. Just as I said, and I've highlighted on the left the district funds, grant funds that come back, to the district after 3 years. So, please remember to pay it forward. What we donate this year to the annual fund share will be available 3 years from now to our clubs to fund these types of programs and other, grant activities of our choosing. So, and, as always, anything to do with foundation or grants, you can always reach out to myself or Pedro Ceballos. I know I chair the foundation committee. Pedro chairs the grant subcommittee. Pedro will be with us tonight, but he had he's on the civic board for drainage in his community, and they were voting on some important items tonight. So he sends his regards to everybody and encourages us to really get involved in this program, but you can reach out to us and of course to Chuck. I mean, obviously this is Chuck's passion. And I know he's very happy to discuss ideas. Pedro and I will take care of the of the mechanics itself. So with that, we're back to questions, and we could actually take the sharing down. And Teresa, would we be able to go into gallery mode, or what can we do at this point?
I believe so. Let me switch over. And
is there any reason are there any questions at this point? Anything I'd want to go back and show a slide for before I take it down?
I think maybe if you go back to that screen that had all the dates on it, that might be helpful.
Okay, let me see if I can. Oops.
Oops.
Let's try this one here. Is it this one?
Yes, I think that's a good one just to do a quick review on.
Yeah, and so, right, so this is tied with September with Basic Education and Literacy Month. So the application process will open on September 1st. It'll be live through the district website. I think there'll be something on the home page, just like you see with the membership grant. So there'll be, it'll be front and center on the home page. There'll be a link you go in, and it's basically a web form that you fill out. You know, Chuck mentioned what the questions are. I believe it's Chuck's intention to have, I think, Chuck, you're planning to send a newsletter out about September this weekend or soon, and this will be in there, and probably a separate email on September 1st just saying, hey, you know, go out to everyone in the district just saying, you know, hey, the you know, that this opportunity is open, and it'll have the links in the email as well, a link into the application process. If you've done the member development grant application, this will be very similar to that, and that's on purpose so that, you know, that people are comfortable doing both, and, you know, really use these resources that we're making available.
Okay, everyone should be able to speak now. And, oh, and Joy has asked, can you show the slide about what's required from the club?
Yeah, these are just basic things that are, when you, I don't know if she means this slide.
Yeah, go back up one.
I think it's about having paid your foundation.
Oh, yes.
And some of those things.
Right.
Yeah,
these are standard requirements to participate in any of the grant programs. So this is the same requirement for when your club applies for a district grant, and that's, or for a global grant. You know, your dues have to be, nobody, I believe, is late on their dues because the invoices just went out. So I don't think any clubs are late on dues. If your club has not yet entered your annual fund and in Polio Plus goals, you know, into Club Central, they just need to do it. You know, it's a 5-minute task. And if you need help with that, just get a hold of me.
I understand that in our club, the foundation chair just moved to a different club. So I'm not sure if we have a foundation chair right at the moment, but we'll work on that.
Just reach out to us. This is really important. And these are really simple things to accomplish. And if you have any difficulty, reach out to me or to Chuck. We don't want these to be impediments, but they're very important things. And they're a requirement for applying for grants. Actually, there's something that all the presidents were asked to do when they came to PETS, you know, back in March. So it's nothing new, but it's essential. And one of the Rotary Foundation rules is, about overdue grant reports. You can't apply for new grants if you have a report that's late. Stewardship's really important. There are no late district grant reports. The district grant checks have just gone out, so nobody's late on a district grant report. There might be some global grant reports that are pending, but that's all. It's very small issue.
See a question from Barry. He wants to know what if fewer than 20 clubs apply and there's leftover funds after the end of September? What can we do? Can we have other clubs reapply and get a second grant? It's a good question, Barry. I'm hoping that the hypothetical doesn't happen and we have more than 20 clubs apply, and the question will be, can we find some more funding? And I'll be happy to bring it to the board's attention that this is a popular program and we should consider finding other funds. But to answer your question directly, I think if there's unspent funds, we probably would make a decision on the district level to support one of the programs that we've talked about, and rather than have a club get a second chance at the apple, so that we try to meet the four-way test as best we can and be fair to everybody.
Yeah, I think we'll want to keep this opportunity front and center. We did something similar a couple years ago with peace and conflict resolution. We had about $10,000 available for peace and conflict resolution grants that we offered, up to $1,000, no matching required. And they were fully subscribed. And wonderful, really creative projects came out of that. So we're hopeful that it's basically free money to do really good things in the community. So we're really hopeful of that. And like Chuck said, our dream scenario is that we have more applicants than we have funds, and that we approach the district to provide some additional funding.
I would like to let everybody know that on September 26th, coming up in about a month, on a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, we're going to have a panel discussion with some of the folks that are actually doing work in this area. So I've invited people from the Rotary Club of Lacrosse and the people that are doing the book that they have. I've invited folks from other organizations that are working in early childhood education. And we'll do kind of an educational program ourselves to go into a little bit more depth about the importance of this, educate on the programs that are out there and the needs that are out there, so that it's not just a one-time grant, but something that we can learn about and share with our clubs, so that perhaps we take an interest in this and it's something we support on a long-term basis.
Assembly.
And if anybody has a great idea for that panel, I'm still putting it together, and just let me know, and I'll be happy to contact them. I spent some time today talking to some people who are going to be excellent panelists, and I'm getting very excited about it.
I assume that's going to be a virtual meeting rather than in person?
You are correct, Joy.
That's a good way to bookend Basic Education and Literacy Month, I think, Chuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to keep people all night. We'll give you a last chance for a question. I think Teresa has some closing reminders. Rachel, anything else from you?
No.
Okay, well, I wanted to say thank you to everybody for joining us this evening, and I really hope that you take advantage of what we're offering.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, there's Pam. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Just very quickly, guys, please be sure to watch the calendar on the district website for upcoming training. Several sessions had to be rescheduled. So please just keep an eye out for that. That was the main thing I wanted to get out before everybody cuts out. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Teresa, I'm going to stay on.